An exclusive XM presentation.
Brian Regan is about to get unmasked.
Unmasked. Truth in comedy.
Through the inner soul of the comedic mind.
Unmasked on XM Satellite Radio.
Brought to you by BowDogLife.net. Playing poker has never been easier. Sign up for free today at BowDogLife.net.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Yeah. You get out of a cab at the airport and the driver goes, "Hey, have a nice flight. You too. You too. You have a nice flight too. In case you ever fly someday. Don't everybody look at me. I'm a moron. Don't know when to say to you too, phrase."
You know who I feel bad for? Arab Americans who truly want to get into crop dusting.
This is Unmasked with Brian Regan, an XM exclusive comedy presentation. Now, from XM's Performance Theater, here's host Ron Bennington.
Thank you. All right. Welcome to Unmasked. This is the show where we talk to comedians about their art, about their craft. Today's comedian is considered one of the finest working today. He's had a career that's now spanned decades. And at the point that we are today, he is at the peak of his career. Brand new DVD is out called Brian Regan Standing Up. He's also doing a national tour of America, and you can see the dates there by going to brianregan.com. Let's put your hands together for the always funny Brian Regan. Brian Regan.
I didn't realize I was going to have to do limbo right off the bat.
I'm glad it took all of about 2 seconds for you to have an awkward social moment.
Yeah, it's my life, man.
You really do owe your entire career to a lack of feeling comfortable. A lot of people go to a therapist, and you make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, I go on stage in front of hundreds of people, and you know, it's weird. Like I feel like completely uncomfortable for like 23 hours out of the day, and then for 1 hour I go up and talk about it, and they give me a check. And, I'm still uncomfortable.
It really is the strangest thing, because it's very strange for somebody who feels like that, who feels like, boy, I just want everything. Is everything okay? Wherever he goes. Because whenever you talk to Brian, it's almost like he's got one foot out the door. No matter what happens, is this canceled? Fine. I'm out of here. But it seems to me like that would be not the type of personality that would be comfortable walking out on stage and being the center of attention.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, it's weird because there are times that I feel more comfortable on stage in front of all those people than I do, you know, here. No, and it's weird because I think a lot of performers are like that, though. You know, it's like they get something out of being on stage, and you know, that gives them something that is missing in their soul. But no, it's a cool thing.
It's interesting because as long as I've known you, it's been a long time, and every comic I've ever known, you're on their list, their short list of favorite comics. But I've never seen you holding court, where you're standing in the middle of the room as everybody's listening to your war stories. You always, in a crowd, kind of put yourself as being part of the crowd. You never tried to grab center stage.
Right. Yeah. Off stage, I just like to melt, you know. It always amazes me. Like, I'll go do a show somewhere, and, you know, I'm proud that I have a pretty good following, you know, and I'll go do a show, and then, like, 10 minutes later, I'll be in a Starbucks, and nobody knows me. And I'm like, how is this possible? You know, I just had 2,000 people laughing, and now I'm like waiting in line.
But oddly enough, it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yes,
because,
absolutely.
You know, you don't want to end up on page 6. You don't want people to worry about if you were drunk somewhere.
Yeah,
and
nobody cares.
Yeah, no one cares at all.
I come out of bars drunk, I fall on my face, and people get out of the way. Maybe somebody important's coming out. One time I was doing Letterman, because I'm always concerned about other people. I was doing Letterman, and they pick you up in a limousine, and it makes you feel like you're a big shot. And I'm going to the show, and Pierce Brosnan was supposed to be on the same show. He was on the same show. And so the limousine has tinted windows, and as I'm pulling up, I see all these people with Pierce Brosnan 8x10s, like, going to the limo. And I don't want these people to think that Pierce Brosnan is snubbing them.
Right.
So I'm like, I better let them know that it's not Pierce Brosnan. So I go stop the car, and they all come up, and I put down the window like, hey, he's not. And they all go, oh, get out of here. I'm like, I'm taking a bullet for Pierce Brosnan. And just angry at me.
It's so sad that your good intentions just made everything so much worse.
Yes.
Well, it seems to be the Brian Regan story. I tried to fix this, and I just can't.
I want to make it better.
At what point did you think that humor mattered? That you that you even became aware, not even so much that you were funny, but that funny had some kind of place in the world. Do you remember that at all?
Well,
seeing professionals, or
one of the first times I remember. Like when I was a kid, I grew up in a family of 8 kids, and everybody's funny in our family. You know, my mom and dad are both very funny people. And I was a little kid. We were in the back of the station wagon, and we were passing a funeral procession. And the first time I remember being funny, it was like I wasn't even trying to be funny. I just asked my dad. I said, "Have you ever seen a real live dead man?" And he just started laughing. I don't even know what I'd said, you know. Have I seen what? I said, have you ever seen a real live dead man? He goes, I can honestly tell you I have never seen a real live dead man, son. I don't know where you get these thoughts. And I'm like, I don't know where I get them either, Dad. You still haven't answered the question.
So you weren't rewarded with a good feeling, right? Even then, your humor makes things feel even more awkward.
My dad has a very, very great sense of humor, you know, but very dry. He says things with a straight face, and you don't know if he's joking or not. I remember one time we were in the car and we were passing like this restaurant, and there was I was looking out the window and saw a bunch of logs lined up or piled up, you know. I guess they were using them to cook at this barbecue place. And my dad was looking straight ahead and said, wow, look at all this traffic. Well, I was looking at the logs. And I said, oh. And I was a little kid. I said, is that traffic? The logs? And he goes, yeah, son. Yeah, that's traffic. So I thought traffic was logs for like 2 years. And he'd come home from work, boy, there's a lot of traffic today, Marie. And I'm like, why is my dad obsessed with logs, you know? And I found out, I think 6 months ago, that logs, not actually traffic.
I can't picture you being the class clown disrupting the class yelling stuff.
When I was in grade school, I remember we had one class where there was a closet up in front of the class, and I went and hid in there like during lunch, and then when we came back from lunch, the teacher came back in, and the class, they were all in their seats, and I was in the closet, and she came over to where like she had to write some stuff on the board, and I just opened the closet and just kept like doing this behind her head. Moving my arm up and down, and everybody was laughing, and I'm in the closet. I don't even see it. I'm going, I love this feeling.
Well, sure. You have that kind of wit as a young man.
The way I crafted that joke.
Just waving behind a woman's head. My God.
I don't know where I come up with these brilliant ideas, but
the feeling... The feeling was fantastic for you.
Yeah. It was like it feels, and I felt good. I was like, man, I have power over these people, and I'm upstaging our teacher, you know. And I remember she was like so sweet, you know. Like 10 minutes into it, she turned around. Oh, were you stuck in there? And I'm like, yeah.
And again, you felt bad.
Oh no, I was trying to get some laughs.
All the feelings of joy vanished.
It's gone.
And once again. So at that point, you started to think, I got a little bit of a knack for this.
Well, no, that was in grade school, and years later, I found when we graduated from 8th grade, some committee they took everybody in the class and wrote down what they thought they would be when they grew up, and like there was a friend of mine that said professional football player, and for another guy a cop and stuff like that, and for me it said comedian and showman. This is when I was in 8th grade, and I didn't even have that dream, you know. And then I went to high school and college thinking I was going to be an accountant. That's true. I wanted to be an accountant, and then it ended up going in this direction.
You went into college and you're studying to be an accountant?
Mm-hmm.
And
for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Until I realized how hard it was to add and subtract.
Yeah.
That's
I
true,
don't see you being comfortable with paperwork.
Oh, man. Well, one of my first classes was like at 7 o'clock in the morning in college. And my nickname in college was Rip, for Rip Van Winkle, because I slept all the time. And I missed all these classes at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I remember thinking, I can't have a job that I have to wake up for. And we had a comedian perform at our college, and the show started at 8 p.m., and I was like, hey, those are the kind of hours that I think I can handle.
Now, do you remember who the comic was? Or
Tom Parks.
So when you're watching him on stage, do you think, at that point, have you started thinking, hey, what's it like to do this? Or
Yeah, I began going, hey, maybe there'd be something to this,
Did anybody, any friends start to tell you, maybe this is something you should do, you're a funny guy, or?
No. Actually, when I was an accountant, or when I was thinking I would be an accountant, I got all disillusioned, I played football, too, in college. I went to my college football coach and said, I don't know what I'm doing here. And he was the one who recommended the Communication Theater Arts Department and said, you might want to switch majors. He goes, you're pretty funny on the team. I don't know if that was a compliment or not.
What position were you playing?
I was the court jester. Had a funny hat and I'd dance around. No, I was a wide receiver. And
had the hands of a comic.
Right. So I switched majors, and one of my first classes was a speech class, and we had to give 5-minute speeches once a week in front of the class, and my first one I tried to make it like humorous, and there was only like I guess the size of a class right here, and I got everybody going with this 5-minute thing, and I remember going, man, I love this feeling, And I used to live for these 5-minute speeches. I mean, it was just like that's what really got me thinking about how much I enjoyed it,
And were you getting that anywhere else in your life? I mean, you brought it up a couple of times that it was a feeling of power, but could you even say like you had it at any other point, or was it just comedy at that point?
Well, I used to get it. I have a lot of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
No. That feeling of power when you're holding a weapon like in a public place. It's like, I love it.
Yeah.
But society frowns on it, I never hurt anybody. I just aim it around, And then I go, oh, maybe comedy, It's a little more lighthearted.
So what got you up on stage the first time? What got you doing stand-up?
This small town where my college was, I knew I wanted to be a comedian, but I didn't know where to do it. And I went to a movie theater. This is in Tiffin, Ohio, the Ritz movie theater. It's, old theater. And I'm sitting there waiting for the movie to start, and there's all these people in the audience, and I thought, I wonder if they would let me do comedy before the movie started. So after the movie, I went out and I talked to the manager. He was this old guy. And I said, hey, man, I'm a student over at Heidelberg, and I was wondering if I could do comedy before the movies start. And he was like, well, I don't know about that, but come on in, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, wow, talking to my first show business person, And he said, do you have, you got any press material? You got a tape or anything like that? I didn't know what he was talking about. He says you got to have pictures, and you have to have tape. So I went out and I hired a photographer to take pictures of me. I didn't realize they were supposed to be 8x10s. I had a bunch of 3x5s made.
Comedian and showman.
Yeah.
Here he is.
I don't know what the proper dimensions were. Well, I've got my 3x5s.
I think it's great to bring a smaller-than-life feeling.
And have a jeweler's glass. Who's performing here? And he said he wanted to hear a tape. And I went and bought a tape recorder, and I went into my dorm room. I didn't know he meant like a live show. How could he have a live show tape? I've never done it before, So I went in my dorm room, and I just would think of a funny thing and click, say it. And I would, spend another 5 minutes trying to think of something else funny, and then I would say that. It's true.
You honestly may be the most awkward person I've ever even heard of. First of all, you're at a movie theater. There's no live performers.
Right.
You come in with a 3x5 picture, headshot.
Yes, I came in. I had, and I, like a week later, I go in with my 3x5s and my tape, and I drop it off to him. And he goes, I come back tomorrow after I get a chance to look it over. So I said, great. I go back the next day. He goes, I heard your tape. And he goes, I loved it. Okay.
This honestly sounds like a first draft screenplay for The Jerk. It just doesn't make sense on any level.
This is true. He said he loved it, and he goes, I don't think stand up and before the movie would work, but he goes, there's a stage behind the screen, and we do shows here, and I'm like, wow, okay. And he goes, I'm doing a show next Saturday. It's for Mickey Mouse's birthday party, and it's going to be a bunch of parents and their kids, and you can perform at it if you want. So I said, great, So I took the gig, my first gig, and I remember like that week I saw flyers posted like on posts and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't have a good vocabulary.
I know it's a French word. It's telephone pole.
I don't know how to complete that sentence. I saw flyers on places where flyers would be posted. On poster. And I'm looking at these, and it's like Mickey Mouse's birthday party. I'm like, wow, that's where I'm performing. And they had like, there's going to be cartoons, balloons. And then they had, it said, in person, comedian. And I'm like, in person? I've never, this would mean something to some. Oh, he's going to be in person? In person, comedian Rip Regan, which, Rip was my name at the time. And then next to it, in a big star, free piece of birthday cake. I was outbilled by a piece of cake. It was like, I was this big and then a cake, So we go endure the guy in person and we get a free piece of cake. So that was the first show. No one was laughing, and the adults weren't laughing, the kids weren't laughing. The kids got bored and started running up and down the aisles, and they started popping balloons and stuff, to fill the time, the void. And the old guy, the manager, came into the theater and started yelling at them, sit down! Show the man respect! And I'm like, gosh. It was horrible. And I finally said goodnight, and, maybe three people, that kind of thing. And I got off stage. I was embarrassed to go through the crowd. And I walked through an alleyway out to the front, and the alleyway was so small I had to, walk sideways, And I didn't know whether to just go back to the dorm or to at least go, thank the guy for the opportunity. So I just wanted to do the right thing. I went in and I said, hey, man, thanks for letting me on your show. And he goes, come into the office. And so I go into the office and he goes, I loved it. Were you in there?
I have a feeling he was a pedophile. I cannot imagine, because for you to be where you are here today, you've got to be the longest shot that's ever come in the history of comedy. I can't imagine a worse opening gig.
It was terrible. And the guy, he gave me $10. I wasn't expecting any money. He goes, here, $10, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid. And he goes, I'm going to tell you something. There was a talent scout in there, so don't be surprised if you get a phone call. I still haven't gotten that call. I'm still waiting. I check my messages every day.
Hey, Rip Regan? From the Ritz movie theater?
Yeah, right. Can you get me in touch with that piece of cake?
Wow. I honestly, that's the most pathetic story I've ever heard in my life. And
I still have the flyer somewhere. Yeah. I got to find it.
And to me, when something like that happens, and it happens to everyone, 90%, if not more, 95% of people will go, well, that's enough. I've proved that I don't know what I'm doing. I got to get out of here. and it's the guys that stick with it. And
Yeah.
why do you think that was, that you said, even though I got off to this awful start, I got to keep going?
I don't know. That's a good question. In fact, I often wonder, when I talk to, I ended up, auditioning at a comedy club, and my first time in a comedy club, went okay, and then I bombed like a few times after that, but at least I had the memory of the first time in a comedy club. And I've always asked, you ask comedians about their first time on stage, and I often hear, usually, that they did well their first time. And I just wonder how many, like, potentially great comics just tried it once and bombed and went, that's it. I'm never going to do that.
Coming back again.
I'm never coming back. Not realizing, well, it's a process. You're going to bomb more than not.
And it's true. And I know what it is about stand-up, because if you went to play baseball and you struck out the first time, you wouldn't quit. But with comedy, people do have a tendency to go, well, I gave it that shot.
And that's it.
It did not happen for me, and that's the end of it. Where you, and I know for a fact, I saw you, I believe, on the first time that you had a paid road gig when you left Fort Lauderdale and came in. And I know for several years of your life was filled with hell gigs, because that was just the process of what was happening in the 80s. And at any time did it shake you and think, I went out?
Yeah, I mean, I used to do, when I moved to New York, you'd do all these one-nighters and in bars, they'd have comedy one night a week. And I went to this one place that the audience, they weren't even seated. They were just all standing. It was all guys.
Was this in New Jersey?
Yeah. I think you know the place.
The Fireside Tavern,
Yeah.
Mary's Fireside.
It's Betty's Fireside.
Betty's Fireside Tavern.
And I had heard of this place. It was supposed to be infamous for being like a rough place for comics. But I thought, naive. I'm going, if you're kind of funny, they'll be nice to you, So I go to this place. I'm going to be the first comedian. No offstage intro. It's just going to be, they just wanted me to climb on stage. And it's like, it's the stage, and then there's the bartenders in front of you, and then the bar. So there's bartenders in front of you, and then it's all these people just standing. And they said, okay, you get up there. And I'm like, well, who's going to introduce me? Nobody. Just walk on stage. So I started to climb the stairs, and I have to say a bad word here. I know we have a young man here. I apologize. But as I'm walking up the steps, this guy yells, "You suck!" And I'm like, I'm not even at the... I haven't even said anything. How's this possible that they could have this opinion? And I just kind of... I'm not at the mic to defend myself, so I just say, hey, how you doing, And I keep walking, and another guy from the other side goes, "We think you suck over here, too." And I get to the mic, "Hey, come on, fellas." I'm trying to nice guy it, It's like, just give me a couple seconds. And then they just buried me, man. And I just melted like a candle and got off stage like, what is that all about?
Yeah, I worked that room, too, and it was so brutal. And like you, I had no idea what was going on. And why I would just fight back. But I could see out of the corner of my eye, out of the exit light, I could see my chick there. And I saw her holding our car keys. Like, don't get money, jump off, and we'll be in the car before they kill us. Because it was like Christians and lions in that room.
Yeah, it can be rough, man.
And I know you've been stiffed, and in the early stages of that, where you'll do good shows, and, the owners disappear, and it's just... It's got to be one of the toughest things for anybody to go through.
Especially, when you're starting. And, I remember one time I finished a gig. It was like a 6-night thing at the end of the week. There was all this talk that the club wasn't paying the comics and stuff like that. I was co-headlining with another guy. And I was new. I had never really headlined before. This is like my first experience at that. So that guy goes into the office first, and he comes out, and he goes, "I got my money, man. It was all in 1s and 5s, but I got it." And I'm like... Well, if they're down to 1s and 5s with him, what could possibly be left? So I go back, I go into the office, and they're like, "How much do we owe you?" And I told them, and they said, "Well, you had some drinks at the bar, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they deducted the price of that and something. And as long as they give me, my money, and the guy goes, "Okay, so it's this amount, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, we'll get that to you." And I was like, "Well, I need it now." And he's like, "Well, we don't have it." And 2 weeks of phone calls. And every time I would call, I would hear the owner pick up the phone, and he would pretend like he was other people. And I called one time, and he's like, hello? And I know it's him. And I said, hey, this is Brian Regan. And he's like, oh, no, this is Gordon, the busboy. Like, who would answer the phone like that? And I didn't want to, like, let him know that. And I was pretending, Gordon, can you tell John that Brian called? And 2 weeks, and finally, 2 weeks later, I was back in where the club was, and I go, like, in the middle of the day. I figured that was the only way to get paid.
Right.
I go in. There's like 5 cop cars out front, and I walk in, and I see the owner, like, hey, Brian, how you doing? I'll be with you in a second. He's talking to like 3 cops. And I asked somebody else. I said, what's going on? He goes, a comedian came in today and asked to get paid, and the owner punched him in the face. And I was like, hi, great. That's why I'm here. But it worked out great because the cops were there, and he didn't want to, like, you know, have a second, you know. So he was like, how much do I owe you? And he just paid me everything, you know.
As soon as you said John, I knew exactly who it was.
Yeah,
Too. That's the sad thing.
Say the last name.
But we used to call him Johnny Cash because you could never take a check from him for any. He would write a check out for anything. I could either give you $100 or write you a check for $1 million. Doesn't matter to me. Take it with you and feel good on the way to the bank. It was a crazy time, but at least as if you were working. You know what I mean? You're out there on the road because the comedy club explosion happened, and you could go from very quickly to be able to get out there and work your craft, where if it was 10 years before, you were down to 2 or 3 clubs in the whole country.
Mm-hmm. And it was like, that was few and far between. Most people, like, did the right thing and paid you at the end of the week, and not much, but you get enough to go to the next gig. I used to buy these 30-day Greyhound bus passes to go from city to city, and I was at a bus stop one time, I think Knoxville, Tennessee. The owner of the club brought me there like at 6 o'clock in the morning for my bus to the next gig. And the bus station, I had looked it up where the bus station was going to be. It was this old gas station out in the middle of nowhere. And there was like a rusty Greyhound sign just blowing back and forth in the breeze. And I'm like, yeesh, And the owner goes, I got to drop you off. I don't have time to hang around. So he drops me off. The gas station's closed. And it was like a cornfield across the way or some farm field. And I'm just standing there by myself. I'm like, the bus is supposed to be here at 6:30 or whatever. And at like 6:25, this Greyhound bus pulls around the corner, pulls right up. And I'm like, okay, great, the bus is here. The driver opens the door and goes, I've been driving this route for 3 years. You are the first person that has ever been at this stop. I'm like, and I had like my little bags. He goes, the bus is full, man. There are no seats, but you're welcome to get on, but you got to sit on the floor. So I get on the bus, and I'm sitting on the floor between people in these bus seats, and I remember thinking, I'm jealous of people sitting on a bus. I'm like, one of these days, I'm going to be living like them.
Did you ever think to yourself, I'm on a path, I'm doing the right thing, all this will pay off for me?
Yeah, well, it's when you get the laughs at night, man. It makes it all worthwhile.
That was plenty for you.
Yeah.
You didn't have hey, sometime, I'll be going around playing theaters and I'll have comedy specials.
How would you, you might have, like, crazy dreams in the back of your head, but I just wanted to be a comedian that could work in comedy clubs for the rest of my life, which I still think is a wonderful life, I remember when I first started doing comedy, I thought, if I could get to the point where, and this was, to me, was like a wild dream. I thought if I could get like $100 a night doing comedy, I'd be happy for the rest of my life. Now, I'm not quite there, but, but that's all I ever wanted, just enough to pay my bills.
And that would have been plenty. Even today, you'd be happy if that's where you were right now.
Well, I've got a wife and kids now. I don't know if I came home.
All sitting on the floor of the bus with you.
Enjoy these Greyhound passes, kids.
Well, I will bring this up because I did see you when I met you. You were doing your first road gig because you've been a regular at the club in Lauderdale, right?
Right.
And done that for what, like about a year or so?
Like 2.5 years.
And I remember when you came in, I think the first time I saw you, you had like 20 minutes material. And about 18 of those minutes were ready for TV already. And most of it, I think, made it to TV at some point and very rarely changed. So right from the beginning, you were a fantastic writer.
Thank you.
And was it for you? Was it always about the writing? Was it... and really, even though I think that you've expanded, your stage persona or whatever, you were already on that place. Like, it wasn't, you would be able to tell that you were on to the person that was going to become,
No, I appreciate that, man. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is about the writing, I mean, for me, the fun in doing stand-up is making that connection with the audience where they're laughing at something that you thought of,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people will, like, come up and say, hey, you ought to try this joke, and it's like, what? I didn't think of it. I mean,
Right.
that to me is like an empty feeling to say a joke I didn't think of and have the crowd laugh. It's like, well, that had nothing to do with my brain. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like to have thought of the stuff. And but it's weird. I've been doing it like a long time, and I still don't know what makes people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to try it, and sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it won't. I did a joke the other night, brand new joke on stage, thinking, hey, I know how to write. This will get a laugh. It got nothing, and it was road rage. I think this is funny, but don't feel pressured to laugh because a whole theater the other night didn't laugh at it. So I said, I don't know. I think it's funny, but I said, hey, road rage. Road rage is a big problem, but I'm glad I don't have that problem. I'm fortunate about that. I have a big problem with strolling the park rage. In fact, a guy cut me off the other day, and I was like, hey, I take the road less traveled. See?
Yeah.
There's an example of me not knowing how to write.
Yeah, that's going to take some work. You're really, you're going to have to take that one back a little bit.
But I wonder, like, why in my brain do I go, I think that's funny as hell, and yet a whole group of people going, you are wrong. I don't care how much experience you have, you are dead wrong.
Now, will you try to work that back in, or is that...
I usually try to do it a few tries, but, I'll try it again reluctantly. I'm not gonna.
Well, you could have sold it a little harder here. I think
you don't want to start by saying no one ever laughs at this. You probably won't laugh. In fact, feel free not to laugh. That's not a good way to start a joke.
You even limped in with your delivery. You were apologizing. I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah, you don't want to be apologetic for what you're about to say.
Now, do you write off stage and then perform on stage? Do you? What's your process?
I don't sit down and try to write anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if I sit down at a blank piece of paper or a blank computer screen, if I just sit there, no matter how long I sit there, it'll still be blank. Mm-hmm. That's not how I just kind of live my life. I just go do my things, and I'll be out in traffic. A guy will cut me off. I'll think about road rage and think of something hysterical. That's how I work.
So... And one of the challenges that you have now is that the fans that you have, they know your material so well that you've got to keep bringing in new material all the time.
Well, I like doing that anyway. But, in fact, these DVDs, Brian Regan Standing Up, that was a special that we just did for Comedy Central. But now I'm like at the point where, that hour, I do very little of that now. And that just came out like 2 months ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now I feel like I have to have a replacement hour, so if people saw that, I don't want them to come out and go, well, we saw all of this, But it's weird. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like if you don't do material, some people go, oh, man, I wanted to hear this, I wanted to hear that. But I would rather just constantly have new stuff.
Well, it is an odd art form because if you were a band, if you were a singer, and you put out the new product, then the tour is to support that product for people so everybody can see it live. But you're like, I put out the product, now I need more product to support the product that I've already put out.
I know. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, well, that's done. That
Yeah.
material is done. You know, once you do a CD, it's done. Or it isn't like you would not hear a single joke. You know, I have like a handful. But for the most part, I want, you know, I'm so proud of my fans. You know, it just really touches me to go somewhere and see a bunch of people come out. And I feel like I want to reward them for being so supportive. If they come out and they hadn't seen me in 2 years, I want them to go, wow, you know, I didn't see 70% of that last time, you know.
Well, you got a cocky attitude, that's for sure. That's going to come back and bite you in the ass somewhere along the line.
Well, I sit on bus seats now.
Sure. One can only dream of the life you're living. Bus rider Brian Regan.
Yeah. Oh, another thing about taking a bus, you know, I took so many of them that I knew, you know, you start learning certain things. One is you want to get the window, not the aisle, because you're gonna be on a 23-hour bus ride, and you want the window so you can put a pillow up against the window. And I finished a gig one time, and it's like I knew I was going to take a bus that night, overnight, and I knew I didn't have a pillow, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get a pillow. So I had like the club owner take me to like a late night drugstore or something. I wanted to go try to buy a pillow for the overnight bus ride. Couldn't find any pillows. I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I saw like a 6-pack of Charmin toilet paper. And, you know, the commercial's about how soft it is. So I thought, well, I'll use that. I'll use that as a pillow. But I don't want people to see that. It'll be embarrassing. So I also bought a T-shirt. And I wrapped the T-shirt around the toilet paper and made it look like this big rectangular pillow. And I got on the bus. I got a window seat, and I put my head up against what I hoped looked like a pillow. And I fell asleep. I slept through the night. Sometime through the night, the T-shirt came off the 6-pack of toilet paper, and I wake up and I look, and I've got this big 6-pack of Charmin toilet tissue in my face, and I'm like. And everybody's like looking at me like, who's this guy? It's kind of embarrassing.
I don't think you've ever had a good day. When we go over your life, it's just one rough patch to the next. It's horrifying. Without a couple of jokes, you would be living the worst life ever.
I'd just be on buses with my head in toilet paper.
Now, playing theaters like you do now, it's got to be different. And people show up to see Brian Regan. They're not there just to see comedy. They're coming to see you. That's got to have changed everything for you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it still blows my mind, man. You know, I try to like separate it from the real me. You know, it's like I like to go out on the road and do comedy, but then I go home and it's like I got a wife and 2 kids, and I just try to live like that normal life. And then I go back out on the road, and I'll show up at a place, and wow, you see the line out front. You know, it just I forget sometimes. Go, man, I have a little bit of a following here, and it feels tremendous.
Well, you got actually a terrific following. I mean, there's not too many guys that can go out on the road and play theaters and sell them out. I mean, it's a rare thing to be able to pull off, particularly when you look at your career. There never seems to be a spike in how your career went. It's very slowly, but every year gradually went up further and further and further. And now you're playing theaters where I'm telling you, a lot of big name acts are playing clubs and, you know, doing a lot of things. But one thing, when I bring you up to people, even though you got a great following, and I would put you in the top 1% just on success rate of what happens in comedy, people always say to me, Brian Regan, he should be bigger. Your fans always say to me, he should be even bigger. What are people expecting out of you? What is it that they want?
I don't know. I always, it's weird. Like I said before about the Starbucks thing afterwards. You know, I feel like I have this following that I'm happy about, but for the most part, I'm underneath the radar. You know what I mean? Like the entertainment media, just, I don't know, they just have like a blind eye towards me for whatever reason, you know. And
is the sitcom, the fact that you haven't done a sitcom, I mean, if you look at your act, you work clean, you've got a strong character, you would think perfect for situation comedy. But there's something about you, and I don't know whether it's the honesty level that you have. I can't picture you, in all honesty, putting a couch on a stage and then telling people that you live there. At some point, I just think that you would break down and say, this isn't real.
I would look into the camera and go, I'm sorry, this is a fake wife.
These are not my children.
These are not my kids. I apologize. I'd be apologizing throughout the show.
But I'm sure you've been approached with, sitcom dad over and over.
No.
Really?
No, a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I used to get kind of upset by it because I thought that represented that you were a good stand-up, was to have somebody want to do a sitcom with you. And for some reason, I would get like nibbles here and there, and I get some people interested, but way at the top levels, the networks, I don't think they are aware of me. But the whole point to me of getting that was so that I could get to the point where I could play in theaters anyway. I mean, stand-up was always the end result. And I was lucky enough to open for Jerry Seinfeld a couple times.
Right.
And I saw the following that he had because of the sitcom. And to be able to perform in these theaters in front of these tremendous fans of his, that was my dream. I was like, I want to get a sitcom, so I'll get a following, so I can play in theaters. And then along the way, I got lucky enough where I didn't need the show. So right now, I don't really care so much about a sitcom. I just want to do this forever.
When you opened for Jerry Seinfeld and you kind of toured with him for a while, he was talking about, and I don't know if you said this publicly, but he said it to a friend of mine who brought it back to him. He was watching your act, and at that point, when you would do a joke, you would used to crouch down and do another joke. You would tag it and then get smaller. And Seinfeld said that you had the smallest strike zone in comedy because you would stay with it.
Oh, man.
But you always, we talked about your material, but you're a very physical comedian as well. So you kind of work in both things. Well, you'll work your material, but then you're physically playing stuff out. It kind of, some of your stuff, the way you move on stage, it even reminds me of Steve Martin. And yet, people pay more attention to the material, I think, than the way you're performing it.
Well, I try to, first of all, thanks for all that. I try not to pigeonhole myself, though, I mean, I think most comedians, as soon as they start to get identified by something, they go, oh, wow, maybe I should continue to go in that direction. And maybe if I was smart, I would think like that. I don't like to think like that. As soon as people start defining me, I write away from that. I don't want to just be one thing. For a while, people go, oh, you're the guy who always feels stupid on stage. And it's like, all right, well, then I'll write other kinds of jokes. I write other jokes like road rage jokes. And, no, but I write more observational stuff or things about the world. I want to be able to explore a wide variety of things and styles with my comedy.
That's interesting because you seem to be a guy who likes to give the audience what they want. I can't think of too many comics that I've ever seen anyone yell requests for material for. I mean, it's really an astonishing thing when they go, I love this bit so much, I want to hear it again, even though it's no longer part of your act. So for you to back away from something that's working, there's a little bit of a rebel streak.
Well, it used to be once I did bits, they were pretty much gone. You know what I mean? And when I worked in comedy clubs, it was just always turning the material over. It was always new. But now that I'm playing these theaters, I'm realizing a lot of people who are coming out are seeing me for the first time, and they do still like to hear some of the older stuff. But I want to do newer stuff. So I kind of, it's worked out where I go on stage, I do about an hour, and it's kind of like the stuff from the last couple of years, new stuff. And then at the end of the show, there's like an opportunity where people, shout out older stuff, and it's kind of fun to do that.
I'm trying to think of another comic. Maybe it happened with Seinfeld, I'm not sure. But it's very rare for anyone to yell out people's material at them.
It's very flattering, What's bad is when they yell out other comedians' bits. Do some Pryor!
Well, I know it's one of the things that's...
Do something other than what you've thought of.
Yeah. Now, you brought up being a family guy now, and you were on the road for a long time before you kind of settled down and decided to start the family life, right? You were out there for, 15 years or so before?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Did that change a lot of things? Because I noticed that a lot of your success came post having a wife and kids. Like, did maybe you start to think about it a little more? Or?
Yeah, well, my wife, she used to travel with me before we had children. Mm-hmm. And then the moment our son was born, he's 8 now, I knew right then that, I wanted to spend more time at home than away. So I immediately only worked every other weekend instead of every weekend because I didn't want to miss watching him grow up, So, and I wanted to set the priorities right. It's like, okay, I love doing comedy, but I love my family more. This has to be the most important thing in my life. And then I think probably subconsciously, if you're happier, you end up, working better as a comedian too,
You got to think that's got to be the oddest thing in the world for a child, to see people lined up to hear their dad talk.
At night, I like to put him to bed, and he'll go, "Tell me a joke from your act," And I'll go, "Oh, okay," and then I'll start to tell him a bit, and I am so nervous. It's like I would rather bomb in front of 2,000 people than my own boy.
Right.
I don't want to do what I think is a great bit and have him go, "You got any other jokes?"
Yeah.
People laugh at that, Daddy? Yeah. Believe it or not.
Pop the road rage bit is not...
I'll never tell him that. He's never going to hear that joke.
It's not working at all. This is your son going, "I can't believe this. I'm not going to be able to go away to camp. I heard the road rage joke." And you work clean. What purpose? Because you didn't always work clean. You always, you experimented in working a little blue for a while, right?
Not fully. I mean, I used to have a handful of dirty jokes. When you play those rough rooms, like I was talking about before, you want to survive in them. I used to have, a joke that I opened with that had a dirty word and a joke that I closed with that had a dirty word. And then I had a floating dirty word joke that I would put in the middle when I needed to get the crowd back.
Sure.
So I would open, get their attention, and then do the stuff that I wanted, and then gradually lose them, and then throw the other dirty word, and then do all the stuff I liked, and then close with a thing, and people come up after the show, "Man, I love those dirty word jokes." Yeah, jeez.
But what's the reason? Is it uncomfortability? Are you worried that somebody could be offended?
To me, it's just a personal challenge, man. I don't think it's loftier than any other kind of comedy. There are guys who work blue or dirty and women as well who I think are brilliant. I really do. I think comedy's like music. There's a lot of things that happen under the music umbrella, and it's the same with comedy. I just happen to like to explore this way, It's like I want to see how hard I can get people laughing without hitting these buttons, Because people laugh at those words sometimes when the joke, I think, sometimes isn't that funny.
Time to ask you some questions. I want to also plug the fact that you're touring the country and find out about the tour, BrianRegan.com. You've got your own .com. Are you the webmaster there? Are you keeping up with things? Or?
No, I've got great web people that actually do that, so that's cool.
Is there a message board on there, or are people talking about you?
There's a guest book.
Is there really? No, is that tough for you to go in and read?
Yes.
What people have to say after the fact?
Oh yeah, because you're you can get 9 good comments, and then you have one. You go, "Hey, what's the matter with this guy?" You know? So. Yeah, and I don't read it all the time. I try not to be self-indulgent, you know what I mean? It's like I'll read 3 comments and go, "I got kids out there I can go play with." And, I mean, you're looking at reading stuff about myself, So I try to keep that in the back of my mind,
Yeah, God forbid that you shouldn't enjoy some of the kind things people say about you.
Well, I do read a lot of them. I don't want people to post thinking that I'm not interested, but I just don't like to swell my own head,
It is so interesting to me, though, that a guy who will travel around the country working in front of thousands of people at a time says the last thing I want to do is swell my own head. The Brian Regan is written across the marquee. We had Carlos Mencia do this show not too long ago, and he was saying that he had set some kind of records in merchandising. And I'm thinking, I can't see you with making Brian Regan T-shirts. Have you ever been through that where you're out selling your T-shirts after the show?
I don't after a show myself, but I do have like stuff that is on the web page. I've always been like reluctant, I used to have the CD obviously, and then I have a DVD that came out a few years ago called I Walked on the Moon, and then there's this most recent one. And then I had like so many people ask about T-shirts and that sort of thing, and it's like I always thought, wow, you're crossing a line there, But now I do have a couple of T-shirts with like old punchlines, U2, and Take Luck on them and stuff like that, and hopefully I'm not like selling myself out too much. But
I want a hat. That's the first thing. I say we go after Mencia right now, and we start to try to out-merchandise them.
All right.
We're going to give some folks a chance to come over and ask some questions.
You stay clean in your act, but I was wondering if you come up with jokes from time to time still that you just deem too dirty.
That's kind of funny. Do you write things in your head that Brian Regan cannot perform?
Yes, and it's stuff that's funnier than the road rage joke. No, I do quite a bit, and and I'll share them with like my wife and close friends and stuff like that. And people who know me go, if people knew how dark and twisted you are, Brian. But but I feel like it's just not the kind of stuff I want to do on stage. But I do think of some stuff that I do.
So when you're doing that, you'll actually think to yourself, that's really funny. That's great. There's just no way I can do it because it ruins everything else that I have. That's right.
For one joke to have a crowd laugh for like 58 minutes and then just walk out horrified, Is it worth the 2-minute laugh?
Somebody records that on their cell phone.
Yeah, right.
Then that's the thing. Then forget about airline comic joke. It's yes, sir.
How you doing? My name's Joe.
Hey.
You mentioned Jerry Seinfeld. I saw his film Comedian, and it really illuminated how laborious the world of comedian and comic writing is. And there's one specific scene in that film where Jerry's watching his performance, I think on Letterman, and he just has the look of death across his face. He is just not smiling, nothing. What is it like for you to watch your performances and what's going through your head?
I don't like watching myself. Like if I do Letterman or something like that, I'll watch it once because I want to learn from it. Like if I make a technical move or it's like I want to make sure technically things. Like I'm looking into the camera enough, stuff like that. But I'm certainly not watching it to like enjoy myself. And it's usually painful because I point out in my mind every little mistake. And I'll watch them with my wife, and she's like, "You got to stop watching these things because you torture yourself, So I'm probably a lot of performers are just way too critical of themselves, I can tell, what bits people like and don't like by how many cameras are up. Like I'll see 5, 6 cameras up. I'm doing a bit, and that bit's over, and then those go down. I'll start another bit, and you see another 7 cameras go up. These people like that one. And then I'll start another bit, no cameras. I'm like, what's the matter with this joke, Then I'll do another one. Hey, there's 30 cameras. It's really weird. You can judge it by that.
It's a polling information now. You're being polled as it's going along. They used to judge how much people drink when you would work a bar. You remember,
yes.
Hey, you had great sets, but we're really not moving the tequila. How is that the comedian's responsibility?
Right. Sometimes you get encouraged to drink on stage. I mean,
how
shots. Horrible of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do shots on stage, the audience will buy shots.
Yeah.
Great message.
And there would be guys that are like, he's not funny, but he did 30 shots. Because he would say to everybody, why don't you do a shot with me? Come on, everyone, let's do shots together.
I wear contact lenses when I perform. One time I had hard contact lenses, and I'm in the middle of my show, and one of them just started killing me. And I was like new to being out on the road, and I didn't know what to do. I'm in the middle of my show, and I said, folks, I apologize, but I have to take my contact out. And I turned around, and I just popped my contact out, and I just held it in my hand. And then I just kept doing the show, and it was like really bizarre. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, somebody came up with a little like rock glass, filled with, I thought it was peach schnapps because every once in a while I like to have a glass of peach schnapps. So somebody handed that to me, and I was like, oh wow, this is nice. Somebody sent me up a drink. That's really, I really appreciate that. So I drank it, and it was like warm water. And this woman in the back goes, "It was for your contact." Like, what do I do with it?
Have you ever had a single good social moment? Just any time at all that you interacted with another human being that did not turn into a disaster?
No, I don't have any memories of it.
That'll be the new act. Just things that went well. You know?
Yeah, it'll be a 1-minute show.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
My name's Clay. I'm a fairly new fan, and it goes back to a couple months ago. I was listening to one of your bits on XM radio, and I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was laughing so hard.
Thank you.
And my question is, it was the UPS bit that you did. Is that true? Did that happen to you?
That's all true. Yeah, it was when I moved from New York to L.A. I called UPS. That whole thing is a true thing. In fact, there's more to it that I don't even do. I went to go rent a truck because I called UPS to see if they would come pick up the boxes. They said that I had too many, so I went to go rent a truck. I called this truck rental company. They said, "What size truck do you need? We have this size, this size, this size." I didn't know anything, so I said, "I guess the such and such size." I go to pick up the truck. It's this huge, giant truck. I bring it to my apartment. I roll it up, and I got just 10 little boxes in the back. And I try to drive away from my apartment to bring these boxes over to UPS, and I had I had parked incorrectly in Manhattan, and I didn't know how to back up, and I'm backing up and going forward. I was stuck behind these cars, and there was an office to the right, right on the ground floor with a guy sitting at his desk, and he wrote down on a piece of paper, "Turn wheels to right and back up," and held it up against the window. Like he was watching what I was trying to deal with, and I was like, "Okay, thanks." And it worked, and I was like, "Hey, thank you." And the guy at his desk with a tie. I got to help this guy out.
You've got a deal now with Comedy Central, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to be doing specials for them, or what's
yeah, 2 specials, 2 one-hour specials. This was the first one, which is now on the DVD, and then there'll be another one next year, 2008.
All right, so it's Brian Regan standing up. That's from the last special. You got the tour that you're doing now. You're putting together material for the next special.
Correct.
And then you, from what I understand, you might even be producing some other type of TV. You've taken a look at that?
Part of the deal is a development deal where I can go in and pitch some ideas to them, and if it all works out, maybe they'll let me try to throw a show together, but there's no guarantees about that. But that'd be great if that worked out.
Well, I got to tell you the truth. I mean, just listen to you here today and knowing you as long as I have, there's very few people that I know of that can sit down and just master the art of comedy the way that you have. You're
Thank you. Wow.
A great writer, a great performer, and beyond all that, you're also a great person, and it's fantastic to see all these good things happen to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Regan. Let him hear it.
Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Unmasked on XM. Truth in comedy.
Brought to you by BowDogLife.net. Playing poker has never been easier. Sign up for free today at BowDogLife.net.
This XM exclusive comedy presentation was recorded at the XM Performance Theater in Washington, D.C.
With thanks to Michael O'Brien, Jamie Karp, Chris Walsh, and Rick Hamilton. Unmasked with Brian Regan was hosted by Ron Bennington, recorded by Quentin Roebuck, editing by William E. Black, post-production by Aaron Lee, executive producer Kenny Curtis.
If a doctor tells you you're about to feel some pressure, talk a lot. In a moment, you're going to feel a bit of pressure.
Unmasked is produced exclusively by XM Satellite Radio.